Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call, and I am joined by my brother, the Gritty Broman. Brent, how are you today?
I am well. Well fed.
Well fed.
I'm stuffed.
Yeah, we just ate bear tacos about an hour ago or so. We had Casey and Jordan come in, two innocent bystanders.
They had no idea what was in store for them.
No idea.
None.
Explosion, what did Jordan say? We probably shouldn't say.
Yeah, we'll let Jordan say it.
We'll let Jordan say it. But basically, folks, we just finished eating bear tacos. This podcast is about bear meat. After we finished our bear hunting films, and I say finished, we got 3 episodes out. There's one more we're working on to cap the series. But if you've been following along, Ryan Lampers, myself, and Jeff Lusk, we went on a backcountry bear hunt. Got 5 bears between the 3 of us. All that footage is on YouTube. You can watch those films, those videos. And we got a lot of questions on, well, what do you do when you get home with your bear meat? Like, what do you do with your bear meat?
Some people were surprised you took the meat. People assumed you were out there just getting a pelt or something.
Yeah. And so here's the deal. On today's video, we take the meat from the game bags in the freezer to chopping it, cutting it, cubing it, getting it ready for the canning process. We walk you through canning the actual bear meat, and then we walk you through us eating it at the end of the show here at the office. And so it's a great episode, and I think people just have a misconception about bear meat, and a lot of people don't think of canning meat. It's so easy. It's ridiculous.
Okay, who cans?
And,
let alone meat.
And admittedly, as I say in this podcast, Suzanne always does the canning. I do the prep and everything, and then I hand the meat over to her. And so I've actually never done it myself.
Was it hard?
She's been canning for years. It's like, but no, it wasn't hard. It was about one of the easiest things. I'm like, oh, so here I am thinking you're doing something special, but really. This is just...
And you think that because it's so tasty.
Well, the thing is there's certain meats I think that lend themselves well to canning, and bear meat is one of those meats because it's like a perfect pot roast, and the flavor, the meat, the fatty tissues just kind of being in that pressure cooker, they just flake away and it just melts in your mouth. The flavor, the smells, like all of it's delicious. And I think that was an eye-opener for Casey and Jordan for sure. And now Casey's like, dude, I need some jars of this. I'm going to take it home. And basically his wife is going to totally support his bear hunting addiction.
You think that they'll give up that dumb turkey hunt for some spring bears?
Turkey's good too, but...
Can you can turkey?
It won't taste like this bear does. So I think this podcast can really help people that are on the fence about bear hunting, maybe understand why some of us do it, and also start seeing the value, because in some states you can completely leave the meat.
Yep.
And where we were, you don't have to bring the meat out. You don't have to. By law, you are not required to bring the bear meat out.
They're just that overrun. And
the thing is, the bear meat is some of the best tasting meat and the most enjoyable part of this whole experience. And so it's a shame to leave such a high quality meat behind. And, again, it goes back to knowledge and understanding and how to process it and how to leverage it. And so in this podcast, it's highly visual. I'd recommend that people watch it, but you can just listen to it. It's doable. We try to make it very audible friendly, but man, the visuals are good. If you just go and watch it, it's pretty short. You can get a quick view of what it is that, the canning process visually. And so check that out. And there's more ways to eat meat than just by canning it. So the other thing that we do on this video at the very end is we take some bear fat, as Brent was trimming the meat off the bone and getting it ready for the canning process, pulled a bunch of bear fat off, and we put that in a little saucepan, just like we did in the hunting film on the mountain in the jet boil, but we did it at home in the saucepan. We heated up the fat and extracted the oil, rendered the the oil out of it. And we ended up with about an inch or two in the saucepan of fry oil, basically.
Not that much fat.
No, very little fat. And then what we did was dropped like 1 inch cubed bear meat into there and deep fried it, and it's in bear fat.
To oblivion and back, folks. It was on there for like 25 minutes.
Yeah, we cooked it a lot, just to make sure it's safe, right? And then pulled it out, and you watch. We sprinkled some Johnnies on it and munched it right there. And that's another delicious way to eat it. It's kind of interesting if you've never eaten bear meat or tasted bear fat, for example. It has a nice, I guess, it has a nice smell and a nice flavor to it. If you added maple to it, I swear it would be like bacon wrapped beef.
It's got, I don't know what, it's got some kind of bacon. Because when you eat it, you think bacon, but it does not taste like quite like bacon.
Yeah.
But bacon's the closest thing I got to it.
If you've had like uncured, unflavored bacon, it's a lot like that. So then when you add some seasoning, some salt, some Johnny's, some other stuff to it, like I said, that's why I said if you add a little smoke flavoring or bacon flavoring, it would taste just like bacon. I mean, a lot like bacon. But that's another great way to eat it, and really fun if you have friends and family over. They'll be shocked. It's pretty solid, man. So that's at the end of this video. In addition to those, in a couple of days on June 27th, that's on Thursday, we have our Mountain House movie night held in Portland, Oregon, my hometown there, near my hometown, Oregon City, right there in Portland. June 27th, we have the Mountain House movie night. Come join us. We have a few tickets left. Go to mountainops.com/events, and you can get tickets there. Hope to see you there. We're giving away tons of free stuff, tons of cool stuff from partners. The movies are cool. We're showing my film Untamed, which I produced with and edited with Keith here from Mountain Ops. It's a great film. We showed it at the Western Hunt Expo to rave reviews, and I think people are I'm excited to show it because it's a great film. And then another film I have in the movie night, it was produced by Leupold, and it's the Kodiak deer hunt I did with Cole Kramer and the folks at Leupold, and it's a super cool adventure. And there's a couple other films. There's one with Jason Phelps called September Calls, and that's with Angry Mountain Productions, an elk film. It's really great film. And then there's one with Chad Mendez called Discipline. So it's going to be a fun night. Use the code GRITTY at checkout to get a discount on your tickets. It's mountainops.com/events. So hope to see you there in Portland. Also, another cool thing that we got going on is the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation is putting on the Mountain Festival in conjunction with the Total Archery Challenge in Park City here in Utah. So that's July 11th through the 14th. And it's going to be awesome. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, June 11th through the 14th. And the Mountain Festival is free and open to the public. And basically I'll read it here from the website. The Mountain Festival vendors, you'll have Randy Newberg and Corey Jacobson there doing live podcasts. They're going to do live Q&As where they do answer questions on elk hunting. You're going to have John Dudley there doing some Traeger stuff and doing some live podcasting there with Traeger. I'll be there. I'm doing a live podcast with Shane Mahoney, a couple other guests on other days. So we've got that going. There's music and entertainment. Again, it's free. If you didn't get tickets to the Total Archery Challenge, you can still do this part of the event. Bring your bow and you can do all the practice shoots down low. You just don't have the lift ticket that are going to be at the Mountain Festival. Again, it's put on by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. Tons of cool elk stuff. And you can try out the latest high-quality hunting and outdoor gear, learn more about elk calling, improve your wild game cooking skills. Again, live podcasts, country music, and entertainment, and more. So it's going to be a fun 4 days. Elk camp, basically, it's July 11th through the 14th. So come check that out. It's going to be fun. To learn more about it, just go to the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, look up the Mountain Festival, or just Google it, RMEF Mountain Festival, and you'll find everything you need to know about it. So very cool. Hope to see you there. So that's it. Hope to see you at the movie night. Hope to see you at the Mountain Festival. And for those that can't make it, follow the YouTube channel, sign up for our newsletter, look for our latest bear footage and the upcoming New Zealand footage. We're going to start dropping that next week. And so stoked about that. As always, we appreciate you. We thank you. Leave us some reviews. Leave us your comments. We love that stuff. Helps us. And as always, stay gritty, friends. All right, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Call, and I'm joined by my brother, the Gritty Broman. For those that are listening, you might want to tune in to the video version of this podcast because there's going to be some visuals for you. You don't have to, but you might want to. Go to our YouTube channel. We've had a lot of people write in and ask us what we did with our bear meat or how we cook it, prepare it, use it. So we have a cooler full of bear meat over here that is pretty fresh. We're going to debone it, chop it up, get it ready for the canning process. And we're gonna video and podcast about the canning. We're gonna walk you through it for those who are unfamiliar with it, so you can just see it. It's gonna be quick short little videos showing you how we do it. Simple. A lot of guys may know this already. This podcast isn't for you. There's a lot of people out there that are new to this that don't know and just want to see how it's done. So we're just going to walk you through the process of canning some bear meat. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 kind of stuff. Trim the fat, get it all off, get it off the bone, chop it into cubes, and get it all cleaned up. So you just have clean meat with very little fat. We also have a mule deer from Montana and a Coues deer from Arizona that we're going to process. We're going to probably do burger with one of them. The other one we might just cut up into steaks and then do burger out of the scraps. So we'll walk you through that as well. Again, a lot of guys already know this, but there's a lot of dudes out there writing in saying, I'm not sure how to do this stuff once I get this meat home. It's still fairly new.
You got to be careful with bear meat.
I got to admit too, I just like a video.
That's true.
I just like to watch. Okay, got it. I see it. Mm-hmm. And so
things
hopefully this is useful to you. Starting out, we have our Yeti 65 cooler filled with bear meat. It's pretty frozen still, so we're going to start with the deer. We've had it sitting out a couple of days, but that bear meat was frozen solid. Hasn't actually thawed out yet. What we're going to do is we're going to cut the meat off the bone. Then we're going to trim all the fat and the gristle and all the junk off of the meat. This is for the bear and for the deer. We're handling it pretty much the same way. After we've cut away all the gristle, all the sinew, all the fat, we're going to have just plain old meat chunks. And we're going to take those and cube them into about like 1 inch or 1.5 inch by 1 inch, 1.5 inch cubes. And we're going to drop those into gallon Ziploc bags and freeze those for later processing, which is going to be canning. So today is just a straight up cutting, butchering day. When it comes to bear meat especially, you want to get all the fat and the gristle, sinew, all that stuff off the meat, because bear fat, it can go rancid very easily. And it then taints the flavor of the meat, spoils, it tastes bad. So you want to get as much of that off as possible. Now, it's not as critical if you're going to can it and you're going to can it fairly quickly. Once it's cooked, it doesn't go rancid. It's stable for years. Uncooked bear fat is nasty. It'll go rancid within a few weeks to a month or two. So even if it's in the freezer. So we want to get that all off as much as possible. We can leave a little bit on there if we're going to can it in the next week or so, because it's only been about a month since we shot the bears. And deer meat's similar. The fat on deer is minimal to begin with, but it's tallow. It's a different kind of fat. It's not really a tasty fat. It's not a good flavor. It's kind of chalky. It's like waxy. It's not a flavorful fat. So we trim that off as well. But we will be keeping the bones from all the animals, and we'll be making a bunch of bone marrow with that, and we'll walk you through how we do that. Bone marrow soup, bone marrow broth, bone broth, and that's really good. So for now, we're just going to start chopping up some of this meat, and you can see, you find the fascia lines in the meat in each muscle group, and you kind of trim it away, and you you pull it out in different chunks. It doesn't matter so much if you're going to grind it anyway, or if you're going to cube it and can it. It's a lot easier to keep the muscle groups intact, find the fascia lines, separate it, cut it off the bone, and then start pulling away, like I said, all the sinews and the fats and all the excess tissue. So we'll show you how that's done. Brent has finished butchering that entire hind quarter. As you can see from the video, if you were watching, he took the meat off the bone, he followed the muscle groups, found the fascia layers and kind of cut between those, peeled it off the bone, have the bone set aside for bone marrow, and he chopped it into cubes and he removed all the scrap, the sinew and the fats and the tallow and stuff from that cut of meat. Put it in cubes, put it into a stainless steel bowl over here. We're going to put it into gallon Ziplocs for processing in a day or two, where we're going to probably grind up that deer meat and make burger, and then maybe some sausages, summer sausage or something like that as well. There were, out of the hind quarter, there were some great roast and steak size pieces. The meat has aged quite a while and it's pretty dang tender and easy to chew and tasty. I'll probably eat them as steaks, most likely. And I like thick steaks when I'm dealing with game meat like deer and elk. I like 3/4 inch. I hate it when you get 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch steaks from the butcher. They just pre-cut them like that, and I'm just like, what the heck were you thinking? So I'm like 3/4 inch, 1.5 inch. Like, I like thick steak. I like to just kind of sear it in a hot pan on each side for a minute or two or less. I like it to be rare, like full on rare, like cooked on each side, and it's like a 2 minutes, 3 minute steak. So that's how I like to pan fry it. A little butter and seasoning. One thing though is I like to keep it in roast sized chunks as I butcher. First of all, it's less wrap, it's just less cutting. I'll make my roast sized chunks. So if I do want to make a roast out of it or something, I can. When I go to have steaks, I'll go ahead and pull that whole roast out. And you can see these chunks I have here. I'll pull that roast out and then I'll cut my steaks at that time, if I choose to make steaks. If I don't, I'll just cook it as a roast. That's how I like to do it. We could vacuum seal a lot of this, but most likely I'm going to eat it before it's been in the freezer for very long. So a lot of this I'll probably just throw into a freezer bag. Keep it simple. So we're getting ready to put this stuff in the freezer bags, and then we'll move on to the next part of that process here soon. But in the meantime, we have another couple of quarters from some goose deer we got to cut up. It's such an odd colored meat. It almost looks like pork.
I thought it was pork.
It's white meat. I've never had a deer I've taken that is so pale and different colored. Pale,
it's like
white,
pink and yellow with white fascia all over it.
Yeah,
it's trippy.
So you'll see it on the video for those that are watching. It looks like pork. It's kind of strange. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. We're going to move on to the next phase. All right, folks. Brent has spent the last couple of days chopping and cutting and deboning meat. Now he has all the bear meat cubed up and in gallon Ziploc bags, and we're going to can that meat today. And one of the reasons we're going to can the bear meat is because there's some risk associated with eating undercooked bear meat. Most of it does have trichinosis, which is a nasty parasite that can cause severe discomfort to humans and even death.
And eventually death. It's a ticking time bomb.
So Brent knows this because Brent experienced trichinosis like a champ, because foolishly and childishly he ate undercooked bear meat.
I overcame trichinosis in our broken healthcare system. So you know what? Whatever.
That's a story for another time, folks. But Brent has undergone the trichinosis experience, shall we say, and the cure, which was like goat and sheep dewormer from the local pet store, until he could import some human grade dewormer from Canada.
Actually, well, I ordered from Canada, but it shipped from India in some blister packs in a manila envelope folder.
And saved Brent's life. But it probably took him a year of...
My kidneys were shot for a year. If I drank anything but water for the first 6 months,
it was a mess.
I had to lay down.
So, folks, you want to cook your bear meat, which I told Brent that when he left the house, but sometimes he just has to learn things the hard way. So, so here we are. We have the bear meat. We're going to can it, and the canning process brings the temperature up so high that it destroys all trichinosis, all signs of parasites, and so on, makes the meat utterly and entirely safe to consume.
And tender.
And tender and tasty. It's kind of like cooking it in a pressure cooker or rather a Instapot or crock pot for a day or two in a stew, and then you pull it out and it just falls apart. That's how it is due to the canning process. So it's an excellent way to preserve and consume bear meat. And bear meat is just delicious. Earlier today, I rendered the bear fat from the trimmings, got it up on the stove, filled a pan full of basically rendered. It looks like a pan full of bacon grease that's like an inch or two deep. And then I dropped all these cubes of bear meat in there, just like we did on our hunting film. Cooked it up, pulled it out, threw it on a paper towel, sprinkled it with some Johnnies and some garlic seasoning, garlic salt, and it tasted absolutely delicious. We cooked it into oblivion, and it still is tender and
That's
juicy
the cool
and
thing
tasty.
about bears. You can cook the bejeebers out of it, and it's still going to be tender. Don't worry.
Yeah, so bear meat is perfect for canning in that regard. It stays tender after it's been thoroughly cooked. So the first step, you want to wash all your jars. We have pint jars here. We have 10 of them. And you want to check, once you've washed them and sterilized them, you also want your hands sterilized, kind of everything, the lids, the rings here. We want everything sterilized. Then you want to make sure that your jars don't have any nicks or broken spots in the jar. This is an example of a bad jar. It's got a little nick right here in the top. That'll affect the seal, and then your jar won't actually fully can. It won't seal shut, and then boom. It'll still cook it, but it'll be something you need to eat right away.
Like within like a week?
Yeah. So don't use any jars with nicks. Step 2 is take your lids. These are the lids with the rubber gaskets. And we have a pot of boiling hot water. I just threw the water in this glass container into the microwave, and I boiled the water, got it super hot. And now I'm going to soften the rubber gaskets. So you put these into the container. My hands have been washed. They're extremely sterile. Soften those gaskets, get them going. Here's our canner. It's just on the stove here. We've got 3 inches of hot water in the canner, and it's just been heating up, and we brought it to a little bit of a boil, and now it's just kind of waiting for the next step. And there's a lot of ways to do this. It's up to you. We are going to add garlic to every jar. So we have some minced garlic here. We're going to add a half teaspoon. You can add a clove. We would have added clove or fresh clove earlier, but all of our cloves are sprouting, so we're not going to do that today. We're going to use the minced. I like the minced as well. Adding a little garlic to every jar. This is just a half teaspoon right here of minced garlic. There's a lot of people don't add any garlic. I love garlic, so we're putting it in there. You can add different seasonings. A lot of people just add salt, which we're going to do here in a minute. It's really up to personal taste. Some people put jalapenos in there. That's disgusting. But again, personal. All right, next step, we're going to take this bear meat from the gallon Ziplocs here. We're just going to fill each jar basically up to the top, leaving about an inch of space. I love that garlic smell. Keeps all the vampires away too. I mean, it's got all these purposes.
And all those kids with their unrefined palates.
Is that why you use jalapeno, Brent?
That's why cayenne goes on every piece of my food.
You fill this jar up. Some of these chunks are a little large, folks, because Brent got a little lazy on the cubing. At least it's done.
And you can't complain about free.
Is that a bear hair? Come on, bro. Folks,
I didn't bring the hair back with me.
You don't want the bear hair in there. Some of this I feel could have been processed a little more cleanly. Again, this is the same guy who got himself trichinosis.
Where would you rank bear meat?
Anthony just killed one. My buddy Anthony, he and his daughter, he came home and they took a ham, a whole quarter on the bone, and he cooked it like you would a pork. And he said it was absolutely to die for. Like some of the best meat that they've had in a long, long time. I know for Ryan Lampers, they're in the same boat. Bear meat is among their favorite favorite game meat. For myself, I have to say the same. It's probably, I think, among the best tasting meat. The thing with bear is it can vary greatly. So, like, for example, a bear that eats a lot of fish, a lot of rotten salmon, let's say, a fish bear, they might call it. A bear, for example, from Prince of Wales Island, I've taken many from there. It's good, but it has a tendency, especially if you don't process it very quickly, and even then, the bear meat is just fishy smelling and fishy tasting. Not ideal. Though the bears that we are killing inland, the wilderness, wild, country bears, those bears they're eating more plant matter than protein and meat. They're not eating as much carrion and rotten flesh as maybe a coastal bear does. They usually don't reach the same sizes either. But I would say that bear meat in general is some of the most tender and delicious meat there is. I mean, it's probably the most beef-like game meat there is. Bear meat tends to taste like whatever the bear has been eating recently. In that regard, most omnivores are the same. So if a bear is eating a lot of dying and rotting salmon, they tend to have a salmon-ish smell and flavor. So,
I remember Steve Ranella was talking about how he shot a bear that had walked right out of a blueberry patch. Mm-hmm. And he said they rendered down that bear fat and they were spreading it on their toast like butter. And it tasted like blueberries.
Blueberry butter.
That's crazy. So,
the truth is, I never do this. My wife does it every time. Like, don't think because you're watching this is something I do. Normally, Suzanne does all of this, and she just explained to me over here in the living room that I need to make sure and tell you that this is a canning. We're canning this meat. Any kind of meat, especially, needs to be in a canner. A pressure canner. It can't be in a water bath. And apparently what that is these jars are going to go inside the canner over here. And there's only 2 to 3 inches of water in there. And what that's going to do is it's going to steam and build up pressure inside the canner and cook the meat, where some other foods like jam and other things can just, I guess, boil in the pressure cooker. So basically, we're using a pressure cooker to do this, and it's important that you use a pressure cooker. So this pressure cooker is going to bring the temperature up extremely high. You bolt the lid on, basically, and we'll walk you through that process. A lot of people are intimidated by using a pressure cooker. I kind of think of it as a power tool, something that's explosive, fun to use, but done wrong, could blow up. It's kind of exciting, right?
I can build a house with a nail gun, or I can shoot you in the foot.
Like, yeah. Now, there's a lot of cutting I'm doing right now, but if Brent had done it right the first time, I wouldn't have to do all this.
Sure.
Of course, he did do like 4 animals in 2 days, so it's easy to, get impatient. Now that we've got these jars filled with meat, I'm adding a teaspoon of salt. So 1 teaspoon of salt goes on the top, leaving an inch of space at the top of each jar.
So you put the garlic at the bottom and the salt on the top. Is there any reason for that?
Because my wife told me to do it that way.
It's a smart man right there.
There's a reason, yes. Apparently the reason is so that you can see the salt visually. That way you don't put it at the bottom and then go, did I add the salt? And then add it on the top and then just crush it with salt on accident.
I might like it like that, though.
Yeah, well, you and I, we're into salt. We like our salt. All right, I'm going to wipe the rims of the jars just in case they got a little bit of meat on them or whatever when I added different things. We want the lids to be clean, the rims to be clean. Wiping. And then I'm going to add the lids and the rings. I'm not going to screw it on super tight. Just screw it on until it stops. Now I've got this fancy magnetic dealio, so I won't be touching the actual lids with my hands. Keeps it nice and clean. The seals are soft because, once again, they've been sitting here in this hot water, so the rubber gaskets are nice and soft. You can tell there's people who have done this a lot, and then there's me. Usually, I got Suzanne doing this. She's awesome. She cans all the time. Is this the first time I've actually done this myself? Real simple.
It's called progress, folks. It only took a few years.
It only took a podcast that I had. I wanted Suzanne to be the podcast person. She's much more qualified to do this, but getting your wife to come on camera and it's not as easy as it sounds. Adding lids. I talked the wife into joining me because it's starting to get really complex in here. All right, so we have the pot. It's boiling, and the next step is we're going to drop these jars in.
Yep, and you actually don't need that just yet. You can just put them in with your hand, the first couple.
Okay.
Until your water gets too high.
Jar.
Yep.
Jar.
Yep.
All right. We got 10 jars into the pressure cooker.
Now you just need this.
Okay, so folks, she tells me earlier that you got to make sure that this little pressure valve where the steam comes out of the lid, that it's not clogged. That way no one gets injured.
Hold it to the light. If you can see through it, that's a good indicator. You can blow through it and make sure it's...
Or if you're like Brent, you can bring it up to your eyeball and poke yourself in the eye like you did this morning.
Okay. Anyway, there's a little V right here that you match up to this V, but you can't do it right at the first. You kind of have to point it this way until you can feel it.
Basically, folks that are listening, the lid drops on. Does it go this way and start and twist, or this way?
It doesn't really matter. You just kind of have to feel it. Now you twist it.
It's kind of like a phone scope adapter.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right?
Exactly.
Right, honey? Now that we have the lid on, we verified that the steam valve is free of any blockage. We are waiting for the steam to come out the valve. Once the steam starts coming out the valve at a steady rate, maybe for 5 minutes, we're going to throw this rattler on top, or petcock. It's like a weighted plug. Mm-hmm. We'll put that on top of the steam vent. And then we're going to watch the gauge creep up all the way to 14. We want it to stay at 14 for probably 8 to 10 minutes before we start our timer. It's probably going to creep past 14. It's going to drop below 14. It's going to go back and forth on the pressure there for a little while while we dial in the heat. But once we get it so it's holding right around 14, then we can set our timer for 75 minutes. And 75 minutes is how long we need to pressure cook the jars for a pint-size jar. After 75 minutes,
it's done. You turn the heat off, and you can take this off with a hot pad.
The petcock.
And it lets all the steam come out. But you pretty much never remove this lid until this is a 0.
Until the gauge says 0.
That's specifically just for pints. If you want to make a family size, that's quart size, it's a 90-minute time frame.
Okay. We've been running this thing at the 14 to 15 pounds of pressure inside the pot here for about 75 minutes. And we are now going to turn the heat off and slide her off of the burner. Let her naturally cool for a little bit. And then we'll pull this steam valve off, let the temperature come all the way back down to 0, and then we will resume. Well, folks, we have run this for the 75 minutes. The pressure gauge has worked its way down to 0 almost. We just kind of moved the petcock, the rattler valve, off to the side, just let the steam escape. We're almost down to 0 on the pressure gauge. And we'll pull the jars out in just a minute. The pressure gauge is dropped, and now what we're going to do is we're going to let the sacrificial brother take the lid off. Here, let me grab the camera.
Go for it.
let me hold this while you
Why am I the
off.
sacrificial brother? I'm clearly the chosen one. It's been on 0 for a while.
The wife still says it's okay, Brent. Just do it.
Clockwise or counter? We don't know. Let's see what happens.
I
die.
It goes the other way.
Nothing. No, just kidding.
Piece of cake.
Woo! Piece of cake. That was hot. It's okay.
Use a hot pad, you ding dong.
I'm what you call a man.
Here. Maybe you should take the camera back before you break something.
Don't worry, folks. I'm going to bust all this.
All right, we got the jars here. Got Suzanne's little jar grabber. I think. A jar lifter.
Come on, Brian. Use technical terms.
Jar grabber's not technical enough. Jar lifter. Is it supposed to be boiling, hon? I knew that. It's supposed to be boiling like that. That's normal.
Dude, that's gnarly.
and they're popping.
Here, dude.
Look at all that garlic. You can see that lid just getting ready to pop. You can see it like, it's kind of got a bubble on it.
As long as it's sealed.
Oh, you hear those pops?
Yeah. Honey, you're going to have a good time doing all these other like 30 batches we've got. I love you. You're the best.
Remember when I spent 2 days cutting meat?
I'll tell you that.
Yeah. We've got it all cut up into squares, which is usually my job. This part right here, this is usually Suzanne's territory. She made some delicious jam the other day out of like strawberries from the front porch. There you have it. Jars will seal. That little popping sound is each jar sealing. And then we have some delicious canned bear meat. We'll share with you how good it tastes and what it's like. Okay, so this is just a bunch of bear fat from basically the rump, the hindquarters. And when Brent was doing the cleaning and stuff, he just pulled this bear fat off. What we're going to do is we're going to drop it into a saucepan, and it already has some bear fat that from what we rendered earlier. You're going to see as we put this in a saucepan, all the liquid oil is going to come out of this fat here. It's going to turn into like oil. And what's going to be left is just kind of a rind, a little like fat chunk rind that's hard, sort of like burnt bacon. And then you're going to see like bacon grease coating the pan. So the fat is rendered out. Here's a little leftover nugget. I could go a little longer, but that's kind of what you end up with when you're done, a little hard chunk of fat, and the rest of it turns into just like fry oil. So here we have a ton of bear meat. We're just going to drop that in here, and we're going to cook it. Like cook it and cook it and cook it some more. Just dropping it here in this deep fry. Okay. This doesn't have to be too hot temperature-wise because that oil just gets heated up and stays hot. So I like small chunks of bear meat because then you know it's cooked through and through. There's no question about a big soft center that didn't get enough heat. And I can't tell you how delicious this is. There's just something about fried bear nuggets and fried in bear grease. It's just delicious. It does make the house smell a little like something different, like fish-ish or like fry. It smells like fry oil.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of chicken nuggets with a little bit of some tang to it.
All I know is when you strain it and you sprinkle some Johnny's on it, it tastes like heaven. It's really good. It's really good. It's nice exotic flavor. So we have rendered all the bear fat, and we cooked these little bear nuggets in the pot there, fried them up, and we're about to eat them, or I'm eating them now.
Thumbs up.
So good.
Thumbs down. I want that piece. Excuse me, folks. That's tender. A lot more tender than I thought it was going to be. We cooked that thing for like 20, 25 minutes. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't know this wasn't bear. Like if you just fed this to someone, I'd have no idea. It's just a steak bit. A little garlicky. It's good.
It's pretty well cooked. You know, you don't have to cook it that long. I just like to make sure that
it stays tender. Why not? Stay on the safe side, folks.
All right, we're in the Gritty Studio, and we're going to have some bear tacos now. Guys, I got Casey and Jordan here and brother Brent for lunch. And this is canned bear meat. I try to keep it kind of just the way it comes out of the can. So there's no seasonings adding, no taco seasonings added, nothing. It's just salt, a little bit of onions, garlic. That's it.
Garlic and salt.
So we got tortilla shells, we got the fixins.
Fresh
It is
guac.
time for you to partake and then tell me what you think of canned bear meat.
So this is like can he cook or not? Like this is like on the cooking channel. Like this is are we the judges? Like
This is
are we
the end of
judges?
the Iron
This is
Chef.
like Chopped.
This is the end of Chopped.
I have a feeling Brian's about to get chopped.
Me too, dude.
Bring it,
Especially
boys.
since he only did salt and garlic. Like, come on, dude. Get original.
He didn't use cloves. He used minced garlic.
Put onions
Like a
in there,
pleb.
dude.
Gentlemen, prepare to blow your minds. That.
Honestly, I trust
is-
all of you that you guys washed your hands and didn't touch your private parts. So
Sure.
I'm good to just use my hands if you guys are good.
I'm fine with that.
Do you trust me?
I'm not a germaphobe.
I wouldn't trust me.
Haven't trusted you for 33 years.
It'll be interesting to see what vegetables these two children put on their food.
Well, we gotta get some more protein. We gotta get some.
You can use your fingers, dude. Seriously.
I don't know. I
He's
kinda
trying
like
to be
these
sanitary.
palms.
Are you
Yeah.
into the,
Hey, when it's chopped, it's all about presentation, and it's all about how you present.
chopped.
Yeah.
Squeeze a
So
lemon
you
on
kind of
there.
do this thing.
That looks,
A little
Really,
salt,
really
man.
lame.
presentable.
Super lame.
Nice and cheesy. And then you.
Those are scallions.
Stupid. Yep.
Scallions or
Onions?
Did you say stupid? Is that what that is? Is this the one you and Lampers got?
Yep.
This is that backcountry,
Bear.
do it yourself, 3 bears in like 45 minutes in a taco with salad, guac, cheese, sour cream. There's no way that's bear. Like, that's straight up pot roast.
It smells like pot roast. It tastes
like pot roast.
It's,
Oh my gosh.
you
Okay,
want
now unveil.
you want bear, don't you?
That's not bear, is it?
It's absolutely bear.
Dude, what did you do?
You can watch this podcast and you'll find out.
Oh my gosh.
Bear meat is legit.
And it was
my gosh.
super easy.
And you know what? It took 2 minutes. I opened a can, dumped it in the saucepan, and warmed it up.
Are you serious? Why does everybody say bear tastes like garbage? This tastes like cuisine.
I don't think they taste like garbage. People are just more so scared.
Are they?
Yeah.
Because like your bear sausages you did were amazing.
Well, that's what most guys will do. Like me, I basically turn all of it into sausage. I don't know of anybody else that's canning it.
I've never.
I honestly
anybody
would
can.
save a bunch of it to can it after this.
I think it's
100%.
actually best to can.
Now I feel bad that I didn't go on any bear hunts this year.
You can't do this with a turkey.
No, you can't do this with a
You know
turkey.
why bear meat too? Why canning is so great is it heats it up to such an insane temperature for such a long period of time. It's eliminated all risk, and so you can just eat it at. But it also there's some meats that just lend themselves to canning.
This is definitely.
Can I be honest with you? I think you need to sell the podcast. Get off YouTube. Abandon your Insta-famous life, or whatever they call it, and start a bear taco truck called Bear Essential Tacos. Or Very Good Tacos. Or
Stop him, Casey.
Bearing Down.
Stop
The very best.
Or the Very Best
I don't know. I kind of think he's on a
Tacos.
roll right now.
You might even be able to go bare naked tacos.
Yeah, it's something else, man. It's all that fat in the bear meat and the connective tissue. Mm-hmm. It just sort of melts apart like a pot roast does, and there's nothing chewy. It's
You haven't even
super
shredded that
tender.
really at all? That's just how it came
It
out.
just came out of the can.
Cubed it. That's it.
Cubed it? No, that's it.
Cubed it.
I'm definitely
It's so
pretty
good.
shocked right now. I think we should start our own company. I'm just telling you right now.
This is like the pot roast.
It's the perfect pot roast.
No, it is. It's
Like when you think of the perfect pot roast, it
it's what
hits the
it
nail on
is.
the head.
The flavor,
Our flavors.
the consistency, like
You can't tell that it's not
Texture.
beef.
no. Well, it's got more flavor than beef, though. That's the thing.
I mean, for lack of a better analogy or even to describe it, it's like an orgasm in your mouth. The flavor.
I'm glad I held off because I almost left because I was so freaking hungry.
Why? We were only like an hour and a half behind what we said we'd be here.
It's cool. I was sitting there like,
You're on Brian's
Bear
standard
tacos?
time. Brian, are
people
you
do.
gonna just film all day?
I don't know. It's good stuff, but
Join us, Brent.
goodbye, folks.
feast with us, brother.
Take.